Soon as I get home, I got some tea for you. Come on and get this fresh brew. Y'all, it looks like Faith Evans is coming forward to spill some wild tea about what really happened to Tupac on the night of his murder. And y'all know what people have been saying for a long time, that the drive-by shooting was just a mystery. Well, it looks like Faith is bringing some evidence to prove that not only was it deliberate, but Tupac himself actually set the plans in motion that led to his own death. What? Now everybody knows that there was a bitter East Coast and West Coast beef. Well, Faith is now bringing some evidence to prove that Tupac was the one who took the beef too far. It is some crazy stuff that eventually led to his own murder. And y'all won't believe how crazy this beef really was behind the scenes, because the tea Faith spilled is absolutely wild. Did Faith just expose Diddy for allegedly putting a hit out on Tupac and Biggie? Let's break down the tea. Y'all go and have a seat, because the tea that Faith Evans is spilling about Tupac's murder has to be one of the craziest things that I've ever heard in a long time. Cat Williams really set the ball rolling on his interview with Club Shay Shay this year, because it has been wild ever since, and we aren't halfway through the year yet. Between 50 Cent trolling Diddy, Jaguar Wright exposing Diddy and Jay-Z, Chris Brown dropping a wild diss track against Quavo, and whatever Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole got in this little trio, this year's a hot mess. And just when we thought we had heard the worst of it, Faith Evans stepped out to spill some never before heard tea about Tupac's murder that's gonna leave everybody shook. It's been about 28 years since Tupac was unalived in a drive-by shooting, and even though the police arrested a man, Keefe D, last year, there hasn't been a lot of progress in the case. But even with the arrest, the fact still remains that there isn't a lot of information available about what really happened that night. I mean, sure, we know that he and his entourage jumped a man named Baby Lane, who was on Biggie Smalls and Diddy's team, and there's even video evidence of that.
There was this fight. It's on video. Everyone is seeing it. And next thing you know,
now, for some context, Tupac was signed to Death Row Records, which was owned by Suge Knight, who was Diddy's mortal enemy. Well, at least one of them, because from what we know now, the past couple of months, looks like Diddy has a lot of mortal enemies. But anyways, Diddy had his own label, Bad Boy Records, and his major artist was Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls. Even though Tupac and Biggie didn't have their own direct beef, they soon inherited Diddy and Suge Knight's beef, and they soon started beefing with each other, making this a East Coast versus West Coast beef even crazier. Now, from what we know, both sides threw a lot of shots at each other over and over, like the time Diddy allegedly had Baby Lane steal a death row chain from one of Tupac's entourage, Trevon Lane. Unfortunately for him, Trevon Lane recognized him at the MGM Plaza that night, and that's why they jumped to Baby Lane that night. But with them both having the name Lane, it seems like they would have been related, right? Why y'all jumping each other? But that's not the first time that either Death Row or Bad Boy Records made some petty moves against each other. But according to Faith Evans, things often got out of him, like the time that Tupac and his fellow Death Row members used her to get under Biggie and Diddy's skin by claiming that he slept with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. So according to Tupac's ex-girlfriend Desiree Smith, it was not a mistake or something that happened randomly, because he carefully planned it out, and starting from when he was in prison.
Trying to figure out how he could exact his revenge on Big. So he started to plot that, musically he was going to crush them. Success. And then he was going to fuck one of his bitches.
So she spilled the tea about Tupac's mindset when it came to his romantic escapades. Apparently he wasn't picky about who he hooked up with, as long as it caused Biggie some grief. Initially he had his sights set on Lil' Kim, but he had a change of heart. Why? Well, cause Tupac figured Kim was too devoted to Biggie, despite knowing Biggie was playing around on her. The whole affair thing was no secret. Everybody knew that Biggie was stepping out on his wife Faith Evans with Lil' Kim, and who knows how many others, yet Kim stayed faithful to him. So Tupac shifted gears and aimed for Faith instead. He reckoned she'd be more susceptible to strain, given Biggie's track record of infidelity. It's a messy situation all around, with everybody tangled up in a web of deceit and betrayal. Tupac's move from Kim to Faith speaks volumes about his strategy. He wasn't just looking for any old fling, he wanted to hit Biggie where it hurt the most, and that meant targeting his closest connections.
Kim seems more loyal to him. I don't know if she would let you do that. So, I was like, probably Faith would be the weaker link out of the two. So ain't nothing like a woman scorned. And, he was like, word. But, he was no more excited to fuck neither one of them than the other.
So Tupac didn't care who it was, he just wanted to her big. He jumped onto Faith at a party and then ended up sleeping together, even though she was married to Biggie, allegedly.
I guess as fate would have it, he ended up bumping into her at that party. And, I got a phone call the next day. He called me and he's like, I did it. And I'm like, what? What you did? He's like, that bitch just left my hotel. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I fucked Faith. And I was like, oh.
Well, Faith has always shut down these rumors, brushing them off as mere gossip. According to her, there was no truth to the idea that she and Tupac were anything more than acquaintances. She's been pretty vocal about it, even in interviews, where she's emphasized that there was never any romantic involvement between them. In one interview, she recounted a particular incident where Tupac allegedly made a pass at her. She mentioned that it happened during a studio session for his 1996 track, Wonder Why That Call You Be, where she was laying down some vocals for a feature. Faith made it clear that she had no idea Tupac was affiliated with Death Row Records at the time, and she insisted that had she known, she wouldn't have collaborated with him, especially considering the ongoing tensions between Bad Boy Records, where she was signed, and Death Row. Faith told her side of the story, saying, when I met Pac, I was actually in LA trying to get work as a writer. I was out here writing with the producer on his new group, staying with them in their apartment, explained Evans. We just happened to go out that night to the Hollywood Athletic Club. This was between my first and second album. Now, this was the same event that Tupac claimed he met Faith at and convinced her to sleep with him. However, Faith tells a way different story, claiming that she only talked about music, and he asked her to hop on a song with him for $25,000 and she accepted. She said, I went to the studio. I realized that there were a bunch of Death Row people there. So kind of in my mind, I started figuring it out right there. I don't think that was a good look because of the fact that Suge and Puff's situation in 1995 Source Awards. Even though I didn't know a lot of the details about what happened, but it was clear he took a jab at Puff at the Source Awards and stuff like that. But I was pretty oblivious to the things that had gone on prior to that until probably a few years later. Now, y'all remember what Suge said at the Source Awards? If y'all don't want nobody dancing all in your videos and singing all over your records, come to Death Row. Yeah, that epic speech. Well, later she did record the song with Tupac, but it was never released because her label Bad Boy Records refused to sign off on it for obvious reasons. She also denied the rumors, claiming that Tupac wanted her to perform oral intimacy on him. According to Faith, she did not agree to perform it, and she left after being paid the $25,000. But several people have come out to insist that Faith really did sleep with Pac. Reggie Wright, who was head of security of Death Row, said they were sitting in what we call a red room. It's like a little private room, no bigger than a bathroom. They had a little couch in there. That's where the guys went to either womp on somebody or mainly go and hook up with a chick. And he was sitting in that room. For some reason, I was going into that room or checking around, doing studio checks and all that, and they were in there, and he was pushing at the time her head down towards his you-know-what. That's all I saw. Well, rapper Yuckmouth also claimed that the rapper Dru Down caught Faith Evans in Tupac's hotel room. He said, Dru Down, I guess, was at the same hotel Pac was staying at. That's allegedly the night when Faith came over to the room and Dru Down was in the room when she came up. Pac was like, watch and see who I got. You ain't gonna believe who's coming. Something like that. Answer the door. So Dru answered the door and it was Faith. Outlaw's rapper Napoleon was also asked about this in an interview, and this is what he said.
That Faith Evans came to visit Tupac at Can-In Studios when he got out.
Yeah, bro. But I don't want to get into this because, she was somebody's wife. And I don't want to get into that controversy, Faith Evans, Biggie. can't do that. But she did come visit him.
Tupac also shaded Biggie with this in his Biggie diss song Hit 'Em Up, in which he rapped, "First off, F your beat and the click you claim. West side when we ride, come equipped with game. You claim to be a player, but I F'd your wife. We bust some bad boys, niggas F for life." But y'all, even Biggie himself admitted to it kind of in his collab song Brooklyn's Finest with Jay-Z, where he said, "If Faith have twins, she probably have Tupacs. Get it? Tupacs." But then things get even more interesting when Tupac's dad, Billy Garland, also confirmed that the affair really happened. Not the daddy.
As Tupac had alluded to on 3 different occasions that he had slept with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. Do you think that Tupac was wrong for sleeping with Biggie's wife? Or do you think it took 2 to tango?
He mad at the East Coast like a motherfucker. He mad. So he gonna get back any way he can. Little jabs, you know what we do. You know how that shit is. Like calling the motherfucker. Well, I fucked your wife. Motherfucker.
And when he was asked if Tupac and Biggie would have eventually gotten over this beef and reconciled, this is what he said.
So I don't think so. I think aside from that, they might have. In time, as they both matured. You gotta remember these.
But y'all, according to Faith, she has a way different outlook on the whole situation, because to her, she believes that Tupac was using her to get to Biggie, which indirectly led to his death. See, after Pac dissed Biggie, saying that he slept with Faith, Diddy then allegedly had Baby Lane steal a death row chain from someone on Pac's team. Then the owner of the chain recognized Baby Lane, and that's what led to the jumping. And then Baby Lane's team organized the drive-by that took Tupac out. Y'all, this is a crazy situation how things just spiraled out of control like that. And fans have been leaving comments saying, "To keep it real, I never believed those rumors about Faith. I just always felt like she did just get caught up in the middle of all that West Coast, East Coast war, and that's it. Faith, it's hard for anyone under the sun to believe you didn't sleep with Tupac. I'm not saying you did it, but it's just hard to believe you." And Faith got her some Tupac. I don't blame her. I think Tupac was in the ballpark about who set him up. It wasn't Biggie, and it didn't take long for Diddy to have a Biggie anthem after Biggie's death. He had Faith sing on this song as a way to keep the attention to the fact he planned to make more money off of Biggie. Y'all, this is just one hot mess. I know folks be lying on folks all the time, but what do you believe? Do you think that Faith got her little Tupac and that's what led to his drive-by? Or do you think that this is all one big old misunderstanding and a mess and Faith had nothing to do with it? Drop your thoughts and comments below and then check out this next video.